Good afternoon, Packers fans. Aaron Nagler here with your Packers Daily Chat, coming to you live on the Cheesehead TV social channels. Hope you're all having a phenomenal Tuesday wherever you are, whatever you're doing. I've been enjoying the Club World Cup myself, but the Packers not making a ton of headlines, which obviously is expected. So, just chilling before we get to talk to Brian Gutekunst tomorrow here on Cheesehead TV. That's right. The general manager of the Green Bay Packers will join Corey and myself for a live edition Packer Transplants tomorrow, 4 p.m. Lambeau time. Be here on the YouTube channel. Going to be a lot of fun. Going to talk about the offseason. Going to look ahead to 2025 and what it has in store for the green and gold. We'll be asking a couple of your questions along the way. So hope you'll join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. Always great to have Brian come in and mix it up and, really kind of lower himself to talk to Corey and myself here at Cheesehead TV. I did want to talk a little bit today about Jordan Morgan, former first-round pick, the guy who, played, I think 6 games last year in total, was basically platooning at right guard for most of that until being thrust into the left guard role against Detroit, and then having that shoulder injury, a re-injury of the shoulder that he dealt with last summer during training camp. And it's interesting because you can point to plenty of kind of stretches there in his play where you think, boy, that's a little rough, and he's got a ways to go, and that's seems a little questionable for a first-round pick. But then you also see stretches, particularly, I would say, in the Jacksonville game, where you see a guy who looks to be figuring it out, and you can see the vision as far as, oh, yeah, he should be able to play not only like at this level, but at a high level in the NFL. And it's interesting that, they only ran him at guard last year. And I know there were plenty of evaluators last draft cycle who saw him and projected him at guard. But so far this offseason, as Brian indicated earlier, I think a couple months ago, they said they were going to have that competition at left tackle, and that seemingly has materialized so far. Now, who knows once the pads come on in training camp, how much and how long they stick with that. And I know Rasheed Walker did not participate the last couple practices there during minicamp, which allowed Jordan Morgan to run with the ones full time. But I am very anxious to see how much, I won't say leash, but how much opportunity they give their former first round pick there at left tackle, because they've talked a lot about, they did last offseason a whole bunch as far as seeing him as a tackle. They talked about that over and over and over again last spring. But then we got to the summer and we got to training camp, and they really shoehorned him into the guard position. I think mostly because they wanted to get him on the field. But man, I'm excited to see what he offers at tackle. And it's not something we saw a ton of last year, even in summer training camp practices. But, he was selected as a tackle. That's what they keep talking about. And I want to see him perform with the ones, against the ones, in preseason against, the opponent, whatever amount they're allowed or they're able to get out there. He can make things really interesting. And I think the decision on Jordan Morgan is a real fulcrum for the rest of the offensive line. Clearly Rasheed Walker has played very well the last 2 seasons after being thrust into action when David Bakhtiari was unable to go after the week 1 game against the Bears a couple years ago. You can't deny that Rasheed Walker has played very well, but you used a first-round pick on a potential tackle who I think is going to get every opportunity to win that job this summer. Rasheed Walker could become your swingman and or a possible trade piece. I don't know. We'll see. But I am very anxious to watch that play out at Ray Nitschke Field this summer. There aren't too many areas of the team where I feel like there's a real question mark as far as, I expect this guy to win the job or that guy to step up. But with Jordan Morgan, it's a real mystery, mostly because we don't have a ton to go on when it comes to his playing tackle in the league. So that's one of the things I'm most looking forward to once we get to training camp in late July. And, regarding the kind of battle, we'll be asking Brian about it tomorrow. So make sure you're here for that. Make sure you're hitting like, hit subscribe on this channel so you know when we're live, when you know when we have new content. Really appreciate it. And I really appreciate everybody checking out the podcast. Packers Daily has been creeping up the charts, so to speak, even this dead time of year. I really appreciate everybody who listens on Apple, on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You guys are great. Please, please leave a high rating, leave a review, because all of that matters. And I know I do a terrible job of ever even acknowledging the fact that this is a podcast, but it is. And I've seen a lot of people commenting on Spotify, and I really appreciate that. Been trying to be a little bit more engaged over there as well. So really appreciate each and every one of you who, connect with Cheesehead TV through this podcast in any way, shape, or form, however you do it. If it is here live on YouTube, if it is on a podcast later on, really appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. Hello to everybody in the comments section. Speaking of thanks for coming in and joining us live and mixing it up and getting things going here. Before we get to your questions and comments, got to give a shout out to our good friends over at Ticket King. That's right, based in Wisconsin since the early 90s, 1992 to be precise. Ticket King is located across the street from Lambeau Field on Oneida. They're happy to help you find just the right tickets for Packers games, from larger groups to single tickets, both home and away. They partner with local Green Bay businesses for tailgating and bus transportation to the games, so you don't have to worry about driving or parking. They're even open on game day for last-minute tickets or possible upgrades. And if you're not in Green Bay, no problem. Just use the Ticket King link on the Cheesehead TV homepage, or indeed in the description of this video. Don't use Ticketmaster, StubHub, SeatGeek. Have you ever tried to contact someone at any of those companies? Use a company based in Wisconsin since the early 90s, a company where you can actually talk to someone. Ticket King, for all your Packers ticket needs. Do it, folks. You know you want to. What's going on, folks? People mixing it up. Nicholas starting us off. Thanks for the super chat, man. Ask Goody what's his favorite Jair moment. Oh, boy. That feels aggressive, Nicholas, but maybe there's a way I can work that in there. I don't know if I'm going to lead with that. Let's put it that. That's a fun idea, though. Joe, thanks for the super chat, man. Think Goody has a preference on who wins O-line jobs? I think he'll probably say he doesn't, but I would suspect in the back of his mind he's only human. Probably hopes that it's, his former first-round pick. Ultimately, I think it's very much the case that both the personnel folks and the coaching staff talk about. Doesn't matter how you got there. It matters what you do when you get there. I mean, hell, that's why Rasheed Walker is playing, right? He's a 7th-round pick who has far exceeded expectations and has played very, very well. So, yeah, I think ultimately, really, I don't think he does, but I think, there's got to be a little bit of ego there. A little bit. You want your first-round pick to start, not only start, but start hitting in general, right? If Jordan Morgan and Lucas Van Ness both had really good years, it would certainly start to turn around the first-round narrative under Gutekunst, that's for sure. Starlove, this is a valiant attempt. Can I get Nagor to send me a 6-pack of the Carry the G? I'm in Texas and need it sent to me. Wish I could help you out, buddy. But I am in the same boat as you. I'm in New York. I can't get it. So, Corey Banky is the man to talk to. Sandy, this is an excellent question, actually. Ask Gutekunst if he's tried Carry the G. I think he has, but this is a good question. I will absolutely ask. Joe, I mean, why not? It's the dead time, right? Club World Cup, thoughts? I'm going to be honest. I've been very surprised at how engaged I've been. Still not like living and dying with every match like I do the World Cup, obviously, but I got to admit, I've found the matches like really entertaining and really engaging. And I didn't expect to. I thought, I'd watch Chelsea and that'd be it. But yeah, no, I've really enjoyed it so far. So we'll see. And I know they've got like 4 matches on today. I was watching earlier and I'll probably watch later tonight. But yeah, no, I've really enjoyed it. Now, and I know people are making such a big deal about the lack of attendance. And I don't is that a surprise? I don't think so. If anybody was expecting packed stadiums, I think they were deluding themselves. But man, yeah, like I said, I've been having a great time watching it so far. Yes, for those asking, I see a couple people talking about the preseason schedule. It is indeed out, all 3 games. Um, Steve says, listening to you now while I drink beer and grill steaks. Well, you see, if I can be a soundtrack for nothing else, that that is something I can get behind. Appreciate you, man. Ed, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it. Just really, really grateful that being a lifelong Chicagoland resident, that I've been a lifelong Packer fan. Listening to Daily just reinforces that. Appreciate you, Ed. And I think we've talked about this before. Man, there is something special about being a Packers fan living in Chicago. You know, I went through that for a number of years out of high school when I was at DePaul. Um, I really enjoyed it. I had a ball. I'm sure you are too. It helps that the Packers are good, right? I don't know if I could have handled being a Packers fan in Chicago in the 70s and 80s. That would have been a whole nother world. But it sure was a lot of fun when I lived there back in, 92, 93, that time. Carlos, controversial statement from Twitter. Bring back Vic Ketchman. I know my co-founder, Corey Banke, is not a Vic Ketchman fan, but I always liked Vic. I told him I was a fan of his work when he was on, working with the Packers. I thought he had some really good perspective that he brought to the table. I know lots of folks, including Corey, took issue with the fact that he was a Steelers fan and working for the Packers. Like, that felt a little weird. But, I like I said, I thought a lot of times he had a really good viewpoint, a really good perspective, having watched as much football as he had, watched the league as long as he had. But I understand why he maybe rubbed some people the wrong way. Jason, thanks for the super chat, man. I'm so glad Shamar Stewart was already taken before we chose. Man, let's let the kid, play a little bit in the NFL if he ever signs his contract. We'll see. I mean, I feel bad for the kid because he got drafted by the Bengals, and that just means you're going to get nickeled and dimed your entire career. But man, I don't know. He's a freak, and I understand the misgivings about having guys who didn't, quote, produce in college, but had a good long conversation with Justice about that a couple months ago, which I would highly encourage you to check out. Traits versus production. Make sure you check that out here on the YouTube channel, because there are a lot of reasons to think Shamar Stewart could be a really good player in the league. It's Soder. How many more days until real Packer football? Too many, Soder. Way too many. Ooh, Richard, that's a good one. I like this. Can you ask Goodykins to share some Ted Thompson / Ron Wolf stories that no one is aware of? That's an excellent, excellent idea. I know he's talked about Ted quite a bit, but Ron would be, if he had a Ron story that we hadn't heard, that'd be phenomenal. It's a good idea. Brandy, thanks for the super chat. Cobb killed the Bears' postseason hopes and dreams on multiple occasions. Who fills that role this year? Might not know if the Bears still suck. We know. What are you talking about, Brandy? We might not know. We know the Bears still suck. Even if the Bears go 16-0. Sorry, now 17-0. They still suck. Come on now. Don't get it twisted. As far as who will be the Bear killer or killing their playoff hopes, I think it's gonna be Matthew Golden. And it'll be great because they'll have like PTSD from the Cobb days, and they'll be thinking, my God, we can't even celebrate the fact that we finally beat them in Lambeau one time over the course of the last X number of years, but now they got this new receiver who kills us. So there you go. 82 is the answer. 82 days until real Packers football. And I echo the sentiments in the chat. That's way too many. Craig, thanks to the super chat. Is there a term limit for the GM like there is for the CEO position? No, there is not. As long as he has a contract. Now he has to sign a new deal every X number of years, I believe. I want to say Brian's on year like 3 or 4 of his current deal, which was, I think, a 5-year deal. So he should be coming up for evaluation, so to speak, in a year or two. But no, there are no term limits. As long as you keep signing a contract, you can be the GM forever if the CEO and president and hiring cycle deems it worthy. Ed, thanks again, man. 80s were rough, but the Bears did and still do suck. This is correct, sir. This is correct. Green Ranger says Jay Reed is going to be the Bears killer. I love this idea. I really hope that, because I mean, don't forget, we play the Bears late in the season. Um, Reed really kind of disappeared from the stat sheet late in the year. I'm not saying like obviously he worked his ass off and did everything asked of him, but man, I really hope he becomes more of a weapon late in this season. It's interesting because hard to get opportunities if you're not on the field, and he's rarely on the field when they go two wide receivers. Even this spring, when they've been going in, you know, mini camp and OTA practices, when they've been two wide receivers, he has not been on the field. So it's tough if you're talking about a team that's supposedly going to be running more two tight end stuff. Well, that leaves you with two wide receivers, which probably takes Jaden Reed off the field in those situations. All of that to say, I really hope so. I mean, I love Jaden Reed. I love his game. And I do hope actually that Savion Williams being on board maybe frees him up to do more traditional wide receiver stuff because I do think he is a talented dude who could be doing a lot more in the Packers offense. Uh, Enrique Macedo, thank you for the super chat. Ask Brian which personnel move, late pick, free agent signing, UDFA, is he most proud of during his tenure? P.S. Getting the general manager to Cheesehead TV. Congrats. Amazing. Well, thank you. Thanks for checking it out. Thanks for the question. And that is a very good question. And thanks. I hope you'll check us out tomorrow, man. Joe, thanks for the super chat, man. Grew up in western suburbs of Chicago, Aurora. 70s weren't too bad since Packers struggled and Bears sucked. 80s were rough, except for 89. Aha, 89, yes. Which I believe still has a asterisk in the Bears media guide. Carolina. That's good if he's going to use laser pointers to distract opponents' QB, sans a pass rush. So I have a pass rush question on my list, but I hadn't thought of the laser pointer angle yet. That's pretty good. I like it. Corey, I very much agree. The North is there for the Packers taking. Could not agree more. I don't think there's a dominant team with Detroit losing as much as it did this offseason, both brain drain wise and turnover talent wise. Yes, they're still going to be formidable. Yes, Dan Campbell is a really good coach, but I think there's a real opportunity here for the Packers to get back on top, right? Not going to be easy, and a lot of it's going to be decided late in the season, but man, I'm with you. You got to get back. And this is somewhat, I think, what Brian was talking about at that end of season presser when everybody talked about urgency. I think the bigger component there, where if you remember him talking about controlling the game, which is something they did very little of last season in very important moments, whether it was on offense or defense, they were unable to control football games, especially against the better opponents, right? That's where I think they've got to make the biggest jump. And if they do, and I suspect they will, they should be at least in that mix at the end of the season for the NFC North crown, which is where they should be. Let me see here, folks. Right. Thanks for checking out the stream, man. Do you think LaFleur overcorrected conservatively when shifting from Pettin to Barry? That's interesting. No, I don't. I think he liked what that scheme, the Fangio style scheme that they were trying to run, was going to offer them. And I think, Joe had been in the mix there in LA when Staley was cooking. And he thought, let's get someone who's, at least versed in this style of defense who, yeah, no, they're not going to be a heavy blitz team. They're not going to be exotics and things like that. But, um, I think the idea being it was going to be a lot more confusing for quarterbacks, and hopefully that would result in a lot more turnovers and interceptions. Of course, none of that turned out to be the case. But I don't think it was necessarily I'm going conservative because of what Pettin was doing. I mean, what's funny is I always wanted Pettin to be a lot more aggressive. And I remember thinking Pettin was, billed as this, but for good reason because he worked with him a lot. Well, he was this Rex Ryan disciple, right? So you thought, okay, here we go. We're going to send it and we're going to be exotic and we're going to dial up all this pressure. And he really didn't do a ton of that. I mean, he did some of it, sure, but it wasn't like he was a crazy aggressive play caller. So I don't think it was going conservative. I think he just wanted a different style and he knew that Joe was at least experienced in that scheme and was, a really good friend who he thought could do the job. And clearly that wasn't the case. Eric, thanks for the super chat, man. Aaron, I'm also curious about how the coaches refine the game day operation during the offseason, getting the plays called, headset communication, decision making, etc. That's interesting because I know Matt's talked about it once or twice throughout the years, as far as, not just the components that you talked about, but um, making sure that there's a minimal amount of friction, so to speak, or kind of fail points where you've got to make sure that that communication is constant and you're not ever kind of waiting on something, right? Um, but as far as like refining it, I don't think there's massive retooling each and every offseason. I think a lot of that is clearly in kind of play as far as, okay, how is the operation going to be with someone new, like bringing in a new coach or what have you? Because you got to assimilate, you got to bring them into your way of working. But for the most part, obviously Matt's the head voice, and you've got Stenovich in the mix as well, who's been both up and down. But and then you've got plenty of other guys on the party line as well. I know Vrabel and John Dunn and those guys also chime in on game day. But for the most part, they're pretty streamlined, and I don't think there'd be massive changes each and every offseason. What else we got here, folks? Craig, thanks again, man. Given Rodgers' tendency to throw to receivers he trusts, how long do you think it takes for him to develop a relationship with his wide receivers in Pittsburgh? I mean, he's not going to have much choice, right? I think he'll come along probably quicker than most people expect. I think obviously he'll trust DK, but I don't think he has much choice. That's the thing. It's a bit of a shotgun marriage, so to speak, as far as getting on the same page and getting those reps in, which is something you'll obviously see throughout camp, and maybe he even plays in the preseason, though I doubt it. But yeah, and that's also why I think a lot of what you're going to watch with this offense in Pittsburgh when it comes to Arthur Smith, famously just running the hell out of the football, I think you're going to see him continue to do that, not have this spread out, especially high tempo thing that we've seen maybe in past years with Rodgers in Green Bay, is probably going to be much more buttoned up, is my suspicion. You still streaming Madden on Twitch? Tyler, rematch time? You know what? I haven't in the last week or two, but I will get back to it after my vacation next week. But Tyler, rematch time. It's about that time, like sometime in July prior to camp, right? So usually when we do it, I'm sure he's been practicing. I'm sure he's ready. But I also want to give him some grace because I know he's still training to be a pilot, and it's a very busy time in his life right now. So I don't want to push it too much, but I know he's not watching this because at this point, what are we, 23 minutes in, he's already found the thing he wants to clip, and he won't ever see the end of this chat. So all that to say, I don't think he doesn't want to take this L again. What is he, 0-7 at this point? Nobody needs that in their life. Let's let him live in positivity for the moment. For the moment, anyway. All right, buddy. I'm gonna have to get going. I cannot thank you enough for hanging out, talking Packers each and every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the Cheesehead TV social channels. Don't forget, Packer Transplants Live with Packers General Manager Brian Gutekunst tomorrow here on the Cheesehead TV YouTube channel, 4 p.m. Central. Make sure you join us for that. Hit like, hit subscribe. If you're listening on the podcast, please give us a good rating. Give me a good review. Let your friends know, hey, did you know you can listen to Cheesehead TV on your favorite podcast platform? Because a lot of people don't know that, apparently. So make sure you do it. Thank you, everybody. And hey, Care of the G Club members, Patreon members, I'll see you at happy hour at the top of the hour. Respective information is on your pages. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great night. Go Pack Go.